Hi everybody, welcome to 2024 US elections astrological forecast. With polls all over the place and no clear winner in sight, let's go and dive deeper what astrology can tell us about these elections. I prepped some charts and let's go through all of them. And let's get started with birth charts for both candidates. So let's get started with the Donald J. Trump. So he was born on 14 June 1946 and 10:54 in Queens, nearby New York City. And what we can tell from astrological point of view. So he have pretty much focused 10th house with Sun, North Node, and Uranus in the 10th house. And he had also conjunction with Sun and Uranus in 10th house, which is kind of pretty much expressive in terms of him as political beast. So he is truly charismatic, extremely extroverted personality with Sun, Moon, ascendant with Mars on in the Leo, Moon in Sagittarius. So he is pretty much extroverted personality. So he's really truly political beast or political animal, how in political science we define it. And another thing, he's pretty much a roller coaster. So he's damn unpredictable. So he's unpredictable as hell because of the Sun and Uranus conjunction. So Sun and Uranus conjunction in sign of Gemini is pretty much, I would say, unstable, unpredictable, and it's both like plus and minuses in some cases. Uh, so another thing, he's pretty much energetic. So he's could be bully, could be angry, but Mars in the Leo on ascendant gives him extreme power to speak from his heart. So people do understand that he actually speak from his heart, and he have this kind of literate charismatic attachment to his base, I would say, and not only to his base. So a lot of people actually think that he actually speaks from his heart. And it could be lies, it could be anything, but it's with true energy and kind of pretty much extroverted and powerful in appearance. So this is what we can see. Another thing, that we have Sun and Moon opposition in his chart. So he basically born in full moon. So when you born under the full moon, you have opposition between like two main points like Sun and Moon. And this opposition is actually have positive aspects in his chart to Mars, which tremendously highlight Mars and his power, I would say, in the chart. So Mars is extremely highlighted, and this kind of active and bullying energetic personality is like truly highlighted in this chart. So this is like Donald J. Trump birth chart. Let's go to Kamala Harris and what we can see in her chart. So she was born on 20th October 1964 at 21:28. So basically, she was born in Auckland, and she was also born under the full moon. So this is kind of tricky coincidence. Both Donald J. Trump and Kamala Harris born under full moon. So it's quite a coincidence. So it's kind of really curious fact about these elections. Another thing, so when person born under after the sunset, basically, the main point, I would say, more important than sun, became moon. So moon in Kamala Harris chart is located in 11th house in Aries. So she's truly like party and community person, how I want to say it. So it's in 11th house, it's meaning like it's all about community, all about like important party in her life. And So she's kind of personality which pretty much rely on the community, the party, the group of people, and this is where she actually truly manifests her like actual personality. Another thing, so she's basically pretty much bureaucrat by nature, I would say. So she truly enjoy paperwork, truly enjoy government positions, and all of these procedures which required in government positions. So she has Saturn in strong position in Aquarius, almost elevated on the top spot of her chart. So basically, when she was born, Saturn was on the top position on the medium MC, how we call it. So Saturn highlighted extremely in her chart. Another thing similar to Donald Trump, so she also have this opposition because she was born under full moon. So she has opposition between sun and moon, and this opposition basically triggers positive aspects to Saturn in this case. So previously in Donald J. Trump chart, we saw that it's actually triggers Mars. In this case, it triggers Saturn. So Saturn is kind of main energetic point in this chart. So this is another thing which highlight this kind of systematic, bureaucratic approach to life and all of the cases. Another thing which we need to emphasize that so she have this kind of shy appearance. So sometimes it could be lack of energy, it could be lack of some kind of joy, of actual charismatic patterns. So she could be kind of boring because of all of these aspects with Saturn, because her ruler of Gemini and ascendant is Mercury, and it's located in introverted sign in Scorpio. So it's also kind of like more hidden from the people. So Kamala Harris is not very familiar with the spotlight, with all of this attention, with all of these interviews. So it's not easy for her, I would say. And despite she actually is a bureaucrat, I would say, and presidential in appearance. So it's very hard for her not to be official, to be like real human, like to be attractive to electorate, to actual people, and this is kind which could be pretty much problematic. And to this, we have like Mercury in Scorpio, we have Venus in Virgo. So this parts of your personality could be pretty much weak points for these elections. Okay, so we discussed kind of who these candidates are from astrological point of view. So let's go to the astrological methods, how we actually can predict 2024 US elections. And one of the first classical methods is secondary progressions. So in secondary progressions, we can speak about motivation of people and their life journey. So what path is now underway in their life? And let's start with Donald J. Trump. So for this year, and as similar to what he has until now, he have kind of dark charisma, secondary progressions focus, I would say. So Pluto is in 10th house, almost nearby his like top spot on the secondary progressions. Ascendant moved from the pretty much open and nice what we used to see Donald Trump with, this funny, nice personality. but ascendant, like 2 years ago, it moved to Scorpio, and Scorpio with Pluto in 10th house. So it's very powerful combination in terms of dark charisma. So he really charismatic, but charismatic in kind of divisive, manipulative, and authoritative way, I would say. So he's kind of charismatic, kind of dictator, internal. How we want to say. So this is could be positive. This could be negatives, but this is what like secondary progressions tells us. And this transformation, like from moving from ascendant in Libra, so ascendant in Libra is pretty much a good thing and pretty open-minded, capitalistic, like attractive personality. But when this ascendant moved to Scorpio, uh, the same personality became more angry, more divisive, more stubborn, and more political, more revengeful. Uh, there are definitely more resentment, and this is who he is for now. There are a lot of positive things, I would say. So Sun, Mercury, so all of these planets located still in 10th house. Mercury is in Leo in 10th house. So he's a great speaker. He could like do some stupid things, but it's still attractive. So he's kind of a showman by nature, and the Mercury Leo is probably like 20 years for now, or even more. So yeah, this is what he actually have to advantage. Another thing which we need to emphasize that he's passionate optimist for this year. So we saw progressed Mercury aspect with Jupiter. So we have sextile between like Mercury and Jupiter, and we have like conjunction between Venus and Jupiter. So all of these things pretty much positive in terms of how he feels in terms of his current journey. So it's pretty much positive in terms like expansion, dominance, optimism, in his kind of dark charisma way. Another thing which could be tricky from the secondary progression standpoint is progressed moon in Scorpio. So progressed moon in Scorpio usually highlight harder period for life. So it could be some challenges. It could be definitely contested results, and it could be bitterness and even potentially lose. So with moon in Scorpio, with progressed moon in Scorpio, it's hard to see an easy win. It's much more easy to predict that person would experience some lack of uh, positive news, some more become more angry, emotionally disappointed, resentful, revengeful. So secondary progressions kind of have both like positives and negatives at his side. On the other side, for Kamala Harris for secondary progressions, we have a few things. So one is long-term career aspect, which is kind of Jupiter in 10th house. So progressed Jupiter is in 10th house in Taurus, is extremely stable position for politician. So it could be like 10, 15 years when person is in power. So I would say that it's a huge sign that she actually have a great chances to win. Jupiter also have a trine to Pluto. So progress trine from Jupiter to Pluto is definitely one of the best aspects in terms of like long-term motivation. So person is really motivated, and her journey involve a politics on the bigger scale, and even presidential seat. So this is kind of possibility in terms of secondary progressions. It could be the sign that it could be potentially win. Another thing is, aspect from Sun to Saturn. So Sun doing sextile, so progress sextile to Saturn. And this is another, I would say, presidential combination. So when we see a lot of like people from like corporations or even presidential candidates, usually when we see combination between Sun and Saturn in positive aspects, it usually signifies major achievement and next career move. So it's the next step and next achievement, next seat, next level, I would say. So secondary progression is definitely looks good for Kamala Harris. And yeah, and also in 2 years, her sun would progress to a sign of Capricorn, and sign of Capricorn is usually kind of more governmental, more presidential. So potentially she could even have like 2 terms in terms if we believe in what secondary progressions told us. Let's go to solar returns. So solar returns is basically the method when sun returns to your position on your birthday on the previous day, like before elections. And for Donald J. Trump, so latest solar return have few things. So first, it's kind of disappointment agenda, I would say. 12th house have Mercury, Sun, Venus located in sign of Gemini. And all of these planets or planetary points located in 12th house. It's not a great position. So it's definitely a sign of disappointment. This is one. For career, it's definitely a big plus that he have North Node on the 10th house. It's in sign of Aries. It's kind of powerful, and it's definitely signifying his potential to come back. And this is truly historical, I would say. What Donald Trump did up until now, from like losing elections, and actually he's almost doing comeback. So this is something worth to highlight. For the Donald Trump, this chart is have a lot of problems, I would say. So it's kind of positive in a lot of ways, because even the fixed star Sirius is located on ascendant of this solar return. But like disappointment agenda is pretty much powerful. And one more tricky thing here in this chart, the Pluto in the solar return chart located in 7th house and doing the square with Mars. So 7th house usually responsible for elections, any like public contest, and this could be a bad sign for Donald J. Trump. So this is also kind of tricky point. And one more thing, just to mention that his solar return moon have opposition to Saturn. This is another one thing which could be potentially a weak point. Let's go to Kamala Harris solar returns. What we have here. So it's kind of different picture. And she have good luck in terms of election and public role. And don't forget that this solar return is actually started on 20th October 2024. So this is kind of tricky one because like up until now she got nominated, she have like position no contest in the primaries, but starting from 20th October we have in polls and every news actually which is published, we had the problems for her. So she's not a clear winner here. But in terms of solar return, we see very powerful aspects in for the elections. So Moon have conjunction with Jupiter, and it's positive thing in for her chart. Uh, it could be good luck, it could be a winning situation, but it's hard to see losing. So um, there is no, I would say, problem in this seventh house. So this is kind of huge plus for Kamala Harris in terms of solar returns. Also, what we see the huge pressure. So Sun, Mars, and Pluto have this tall square, which is like opposition and two squares in the middle between like masculine, powerful, uh, planetary points. And this could be extremely challenging, I would say. It definitely signifies contest, competition, even power, even like violence. It could be a power struggle. And and one more thing to the positive side of this solar return is Venus in ascendant. So it's not very often when you have your solar return in your birthday, and you have Venus on the ascendant of solar chart. And this is extremely positive, I would say, and extremely positive for Kamala Harris. So this is kind of mixed outcomes here. So when we saw Donald J. Trump, we see pretty much a lot of kind of disappointment signs. In Kamala Harris chart, it's mixed. So we do have like Moon and Jupiter conjunction. We do have Venus on solar ascendant, solar return ascendant. But we actually have South Node in 10th house, which is could be large problems in like career, reputation. We also have Mars in 8th house. We have this square between like big square between Mars, Pluto, and Sun. And all of this is actually mixed results. And let's go to the next method. In astrology, usually we're using transits to figure out what's going on. So to compare the birth chart, actually when a person born, it's kind of snapshot of planetary cycles when you're born, and current timing or whatever day we want to check, snapshot and correspondence between these planetary cycles. And in terms of like transits on election day on 5th of November for Donald J. Trump, we see a couple of very important items. So he have once in a lifetime career experience potential comeback, I would say. So he have transit Uranus on the MC, which is like top spot of his like birth chart or snapshot of time. So this is kind of extremely powerful, once in a lifetime aspect, which is truly kind of enormous. And I want to say once more. So what Donald J. Trump did is pretty much extraordinary. So he almost did come back. And another thing is Jupiter through his 10th house. So transit Jupiter doing all of the kind of the aspects with North Node with Sun, with his Uranus in 10th house. So it's a positive transit from the Jupiter, and Jupiter usually it's planet of optimism and sometimes exaggeration. So definitely it could be very close, very tight elections, and even possibly win Donald Trump. Because Uranus, when we see actually as aspects from Uranus, it means that it's one in a lifetime activation of some points. It's trigger point which could overthrow all of your life or doing like history or write some very important points, bullet points on your Wikipedia, I would say. So this is one thing. Another thing, he has this potential bad luck with election with transit Saturn through 7th house. So similar to solar return, when we saw Pluto in 7th house, we now see Saturn in 7th house. So looks like he did almost everything he could do. He have a good timing in terms of Uranus aspects. And if it's like one tricky point, I would say, and he definitely could win this election, but I see Saturn in 7th house, and it usually signifies problems in terms of elections. So could be definitely a showstopper for Donald J. Trump. So pay attention to this Saturn position through his 7th house. And it's also located in sign of Pisces. So sign of Pisces also kind of related to disappointments. And this kind of disappointments in terms of the elections could be the case for Donald J. Trump. Another thing, let's see what fast planets tells us about like this specific election day for Donald J. Trump. So see transit moon Venus on 7th house. So basically exactly we have mood of the day is quite reserved, I would say, but overall it could be pretty much the chance. So 7th house, Saturn, Moon and Venus through 4th house. It's just misprint here. So through 4th house, and yeah, could be reserved and potentially with some bad luck in terms of this election results. And let's see what Kamala Harris charts tells us. So we definitely have one curious point in Kamala Harris chart. So she do have transit Neptune through 10th house. And usually it's very important point for any Democratic president in the United States. We see all of the place like for JFK, for Abraham Lincoln, so we have a lot of this presence of Neptune in 10th house, even for Joe Biden. So we have this context of like Neptune in 10th house, and in Kamala Harris chart, we actually see this transiting Neptune through her 10th house, which is in sign of Pisces. And it's definitely a huge highlight in terms of like she's Democratic Party leader actually. Not very like open or charismatic, but in terms of systematic approach. So she's truly emphasized like her like party in terms of like leadership and this kind of approach with all of this agenda, democratic agenda basically. Another thing, so she do have similar to Donald Trump aspect from Uranus. So in case of Donald J. Trump, he have Uranus on MC, on the top spot of his chart, on the zenith of his chart, on the top location. And Kamala Harris have Uranus conjunction with Jupiter, which is kind of most optimistic and joyful point for any kind of person. And when Uranus, which is moving pretty slow, this is once in 84 years aspect. So this aspect is like 1 to 3 years. So this Uranus will go like this year and next year, or previous year and this year. So this is like 2 year or 3 year span of aspect in 84 years. So this is a once in a lifetime luck for Kamala Harris, and it truly is. She is not the strongest candidate. She's not the strongest personality. She's not the charismatic, but she really have a chance. So she is in right place in right time. So transit Uranus with Jupiter could provide enormous luck and success. So this is one of the aspects you can check on your charts. If you actually have this aspect, try to figure out what opportunity you have or what opportunity you lost, because this is definitely opportunities, definitely a chance. It's once in a lifetime. So yeah, pay attention to this transit Uranus aspect. Another thing, so she do have career tension aspects. So we have Saturn through 10th house. So it's a lot of burden on her shoulders. Saturn doing opposition to Uranus, opposition to Pluto. It's kind of grave pressure on her. It's too much on her shoulder, too much on her plate. It's actually too much, and this is what we see in transits. It's too much. And another thing I would say that still, transit Jupiter is in conjunction with your ascendant. This is also one of the top points of discussion in astrological community, that Donald Trump have this transit Jupiter through his 10th house, and Kamala Harris have transit Jupiter through your ascendant. And what is better? We'll see. But for ascendant, it's definitely expansion of the role. It's very hard to see here the end of the term, I would say. So it's hard to see that after Jupiter actually will move directly and do an actual conjunction with ascendant and then proceed to move directly going forward, it's hard to see that she will just go to Senate like in 2 years, or like go to kind of retirement. This is not what we see in this chart. So definitely it could be next steps, and pretty much it. Another thing, so mood of the day is pretty much optimistic. We see Venus, transit Moon is in through the 7th house. So it could be a positive signs for her. And transit Sun also making conjunction with your Neptune, which could be a positive thing in terms of, because Neptune is actually your ruler of 10th house, but could be also disappointing. So it could be kind of win, but with very slow margin, or kind of contested, or even lose. So let's see. But as I said, it's very hard to see that this person will just step out from your role and not be the actual president after the elections. Let's see the transits on inauguration. So basically, after elections, the actual inauguration our actual presidency starts from 20th January 2025. So we need to see the transits on this day. And the transits for Donald J. Trump here is we actually see a lot of resentment. So Venus, transit Venus and Saturn are in 7th house. So we have some contest, some challenge, I would say. Could be legal challenge, could be legal delays or whatever. So this transit conjunction, doing squares to Uranus and basically all of Donald J. Trump's components of 10th house. So to Sun, to North Node, to Uranus. And this could be the potentially kind of resentment feeling on this day. And when you actually become the president, when you win and when you have inauguration, usually this is not emotions you experience. So this is a high probability that it could be sign that he would lose. What are beneficial factors in this transits? So transit Jupiter going through his 10th house. Again, this is a very good position to expand and achieve. So even if he loses, this could be historic election campaign and truly inspiring story for ages, I would say. So transit Uranus also doing sextile to Venus and Saturn. So this is also another point that he actually could win elections. But again, going back to this resentment point, it's very hard to believe that person could win or like be inaugurated when transit Mars going through his like Mars, Venus. So it could be like extremely challenging and contested, almost like ignored. I don't know. It could be like inauguration when like generals don't come up or army don't come up. It could be very contested like inauguration, very angry, very resentment, with a huge like kind of potential violence or angriness. So this is type of this energy on the day for Donald J. Trump, what astrology tells us. Let's see transit on inauguration for Kamala Harris, and she actually do have like important career event. So each time when you have this multiple conjunction, like Venus doing conjunction with Saturn, like plus minus 1 day on some spot on your chart. So she do have this conjunction in 10th house. So it's definitely important career event for her. And if it could be if it means that she loses, I would say I'm like still like trying to figure out. So if she loses, it's definitely saying that it's career event. So this is kind of tricky point here. So on 20th January 2025, according to like astrological like transits, we definitely see career event in your life, which is mixed and mostly positive because Venus and Saturn doing trines to Neptune, which is the ruler of the 10th house. They do have oppositions to Venus, but it's of course it's tension. Yeah, it's burden on her shoulders. It's, as we already discussed, it's over her like even level, I would say. So it's over her mind in some cases. So it's too much on your plate. But this is what we have. Another thing, we have transit Mars sextile to Jupiter. This is another like quick aspect which actually it's hard to imagine when if she loses, somebody will have this Mars and Jupiter sextile. I don't know. It's kind of it's usually kind of positive aspect which gives a lot of joy. So again, this is also a good aspect. Another thing, once in a lifetime luck, we already emphasized it. So transit Uranus will be still in place with this conjunction with Jupiter. Jupiter, which is also the second ruler of 10th house, so and 7th house as well. Don't forget it. And what is a key thing which I actually see in this chart, that this is a business as usual. So we have continued transit Saturn going on through 10th house. We have continued transit Neptune through the 10th house. We have coming into 10th house North Node, which is usually a very positive sign. So there is no closure, I would say. So this is like moving forward, like business as usual. Like she was vice president and now she is president. And another thing is transit Saturn doing this, all of this hard oppositions on the 4th house. And this is also another thing which is put a lot of burden on your like family, on your privacy, on her time to rest. So 4th house is usually like privacy, your family, your home, your relationship with your loved ones, and all of this strained and like constrained because all of the career challenges. It's definitely no privacy. There is no point where you can hide. And this is also kind of sign that it would be a step forward for her and more burden. And let's go to see one last astrological method about which I want to discuss. This is Zodiacal Releasing from Lot of Spirit. So this is kind of the technique from ancient Greece, which is used like by periodization. So basically we have a science, and depends where the parts of fortune, which is calculated, depends on the sun and moon positions, night or daily birth. And this is just the periodization of the sign rulers and the years which is ruled. And for Donald J. Trump, we see that he have general Cancer period. So for zodiacal releasing, it's a Cancer period with a sub period in Aries, and it will go till November 21st. And during this Cancer period from 2000 to 2025, it's been a wild ride for Donald Trump. Yes, and in terms of this zodiacal releasing, I would say there is no much of a deal in terms of like some importance, but it's definitely so Aries. So sub period for this time for election is in sign of Aries. Aries is third from the pars fortune for the equal house system and for Donald Trump. It's kind of culminated in Cancer period, so it's a really contested, challenging, career demanding period for Donald J. Trump. It's kind of extroverted and pretty much positive in all of the terms. But after 21st November, it will move on to Taurus, and Taurus is kind of empty sign for him, but it's 10th house in equal system. So I would say this is tricky part, because for zodiacal releasing, I know it's pretty much new technique for all of you, but what we need to mention, the previous period was when he was very successful was 2016. So when he when he won previous election, it was the Gemini subperiod, and in Gemini subperiod is all of this concentrated positions like Sun, North Node in Gemini. So all of this positive things going on in Gemini. So and it's activated from like 2016 to 2017, and he actually got elected, inaugurated in this period. So, as I said, so comparing to previous period, it's a much less chance, I would say, because Aries is a kind of empty sign for Donald Trump. It kind of it's do have sextiles from Sun, but it's like empty. It's active, it's energetic, it's worth attention, but it's just not mm, activated. It's not triggered, and this is kind of concerning thing. For Kamala Harris, so what we see, so she have general period in Pisces, which is kind of her positive thing because as we saw in her chart, uh, she do have a lot of fortune in Sagittarius. So Pisces is in um, Pisces is pretty strong sign because like it's have the square with the Pisces, with the Gemini and the Sagittarius. So it's the same signs. So it could be much more important period, especially from 2020 to 2032 for her. And let's see for the sub period. So sub period would be the uh, Gemini actually, and Gemini is kind of positive sign for her. It's where North Node and Ascendant located, and this is actually what we talk about the case for Donald J. Trump. So Donald J. Trump became president when Zodiacal releasing from a lot of spirit sub-period was Gemini, where his North Node located. And now it's vice versa for Kamala Harris when her North Node located in this period. So this is kind of worth attention. This is a great technique. It could be sometimes confusing, but yeah, I just decided to go through all of the techniques and see what they say about. So in conclusion, let's see what we saw in the charts and what actually astrology tells us. So Donald J. Trump versus Kamala Harris. So let's do secondary progression. So secondary progressions for Trump is really challenging, I would say. It's still promising in terms of like progressed Mercury with Jupiter sextile and progressed Venus and Jupiter conjunction. It's really promising thing, but still it's challenging because of this dark charisma. It's challenging because of like progressed moon in Scorpio is not like when you winning. So basically when you win, you usually experience like joyful emotions. It's not about hate, it's not about like it should be joyful. Even for Donald Trump, it's great comeback if he wins. Like it's fantastic comeback. So, but we don't see this in progression. We see like dark energy, angriness, uh, and I would say resentment. For Kamala Harris, we see positive aspects. So secondary progressions actually, like I would say, fantastic. So progressed Sun sextile with Saturn. It's president maker aspect. I saw this a lot in like when people became CEOs, when people became the managers of their team. So it's always a step forward. I actually I I don't recall any case when actually person will have this progressed secondary progression aspect and have like a bad career year. It could be challenging in some other areas, but it's actually positive to career. It's a lot of burden, a lot of responsibility, but it's positive. For the solar returns, for Trump, it's another disappointing thing. So 12th house focus. We have Sun, Mercury in 12th house. It's not great. Neptune is on MC. It's another thing which is not great. And you recall it, the Pluto on in 7th house. It's kind of disaster in terms of like election prediction. So solar returns is if like talking about secondary progression, it's challenging, but okay, we can say that he could become president, but he would be angry, resentful, this kind of dark Trump, not a nice guy, but he still have potential according to secondary progressions. He do have like progressed Mercury Jupiter sextile. He do have progressed Venus and Jupiter conjunction, but in case of solar returns, it's disappointing and nothing to actually have any benefits from this method, from this astrological method. For Kamala Harris, for solar return, we have slightly positive. So she do have Moon and Jupiter conjunction in 7th house and Venus in ascendant. She actually do have this kind of challenging aspects, but of course, this is the 2024 US presidential elections. It couldn't be easy, as she said. So it's slightly positive. I don't see this kind of huge luck solar return. Like some people do have some solar returns, which is fantastic. I would say for some years, people have like Venus, Mercury, Jupiter conjunction in 10th house, and it's like one-way road. There is no way to mention that it is like bad year. But in case of Kamala Harris, it's slightly positive. It do have Moon and Jupiter conjunction in 7th house regarding election. It do have Venus in ascendant, but there are a bunch of challenging aspects. So even we can interpret that she actually had a good year. It's a great chance for her, but she still could lose. So yeah, we'll see. But in terms of solar returns, if we like say independently, it's slightly positive. So for Trump, it's disappointing. For Harris, it's slightly positive. Let's go to transits on November 5th. So both candidates have slightly positive aspects. So Donald Trump have like this historic transit Uranus on MC on the top spot of his chart. It's fantastic. And transit Jupiter through 10th house also could change everything. So these two aspects, I would say, these two aspects really kind of uh, truly could be historic, and it's already historic. His participation, he's almost come back, so he's already in the political science literature, I would say, as example. But he do have Saturn, transit Saturn through his 7th house. That is why it's slightly positive. It's not positive, it's slightly positive. For Kamala Harris, we do have similar. It's also slightly positive because she also have the same historic activation by Uranus. So transit Uranus also doing conjunction with your Jupiter, and it's also pretty much comparing what Donald Trump have. So both these candidates have this. I don't know. I saw the aspects of Joe Biden. If Joe Biden would be candidate, there would be one-way road. And in this case, for Kamala Harris, we actually have strong aspects as well, I would say. So she have slightly positive outlook for transits on November 5th, and transit Saturn opposition to Venus and Uranus. doing enormous pressure on her privacy, on her family, and on her self-esteem as well. For the transits on 20th of January, it's definitely angry time for Donald Trump. There is no way I could say that this chart is kind of positive or good. It's bad. Transit Mars on Saturn couldn't be positive. I don't know if he would be elected, this would be, I don't know. It would be contested inauguration or something else, but it's bad day to Donald Trump. I actually better imagine or easily imagine with this kind of aspect that he would watch a television, watch an inauguration of like Kamala Harris, and like be very angry, very resentment, and like really understand that this comeback, historical comeback, just goes from him, like evaporated. He kept truly great run, truly great fight, but he'll still lose. So this is kind of transit I see. So transit Mars and Saturn, not great, and Venus and Saturn conjunction, transit Venus and Saturn passing through 7th house with squares to his 10th house. This is also not easy. This is definitely not easy aspect, and this is fast aspect, and definitely related to inauguration. And so yeah, it's angry time for Donald Trump. For Kamala Harris, it's much more positive. So Venus and Saturn conjunction in 10th house. It's literally career event for her life. It's literally kind of like, okay, you got a job, and you have this kind of aspect, and this is it. It's responsibility. It's a huge burden on her shoulder, but uh, this is a clear win, I would say, in terms of transits on 20th of January. And in terms of zodiacal releasing from like a lot of spirit, this ancient Greek technique. So for Donald J. Trump, it's average comparing to his historical period, 2016, 2017, when he do have Gemini period with Sun, North Node, 10th house. So he have powerful time then. But now sign of Aries is empty in history. It's actually fight. It's nice. It's great contest. It's great competition from him. But it's not activation in terms of zodiacal releasing technique. For Kamala Harris, we see positive activation actually. So she has sub-period Gemini, which is kind of angular sign from Sagittarius. So her part of fortune is in Sagittarius, and Gemini is angular sign. So when you have this angular sign activated, it's pretty much like 80% it's positive, and especially when you do have North Node and Ascendant in your birth chart there as well. So again, with all of this combining things, we have like mostly positive outlook for Kamala Harris from astrological, again, from astrological point of view. I'm not a big like fan of like both of them, but this is what astrology actually and astrological methods tells us. It's really hard to interpret it in other way. So if you see the solar return when you saw like 12th house focused like in Donald J. Trump chart, it's hard to see like a win, a good thing. Okay, he has like North Node in 10th house, but he have like Neptune and MC on top point spot of his chart. So this is kind of, I would say, to make conclusion, this is not a one-way road. We have a great examples of activations. So Kamala Harris have historic transit Uranus through her Jupiter. She do have historic secondary progressions with Sun making sextile to Saturn, along with transit Jupiter with Pluto trine. It's a long-term aspect. It's very hard to have this kind of aspect. Not much of you have this kind of secondary progressed aspect between like progressed Jupiter and Pluto. Similar to Donald Trump, he have historic like birth chart. He have like Sun and Uranus conjunction in 10th house. He have Mars on ascendant. It's extremely powerful combination, and he do have extremely powerful secondary progression which with angry dark charisma, uh, with Pluto, with progressed Pluto in 10th house. So both candidates have this astrological highlights, I would say. And let's see, is astrology actually got it right? Because based on what we see, Kamala Harris would be the next president of the United States based on secondary progressions, solar returns, transits on both days, election days and inauguration days, zodiacal releasing technique. So this is my take on the 2024 presidential elections. Subscribe to my channel and yeah, see you soon. Thank you, everybody. Bye.